Ladies and germs, thank you for joining me. I've got something very important to discuss with you today. It is heavy metal music. I've got an album review for you today, and the album is by a band called Sad Legend. Those are the worst kind of legends, the saddest ones. They always get me right here in the heartstrings. This album is called Revenge of the Soul, and it's really good. This is a really great album, and I've been gearing up and thinking about this review for... Let me turn this down. Thinking about it for 2 weeks or so and listening to it constantly for 2 weeks. Now the weird thing is, I've owned this CD probably since it came out in 2009 and been a fan of the band, I don't know, 15 years or so. They have 2 albums out. The first one came out in 1998, 1 year after they began. So the band started, actually it's a solo project of Nema, and then a year later had an album done, and it's a fucking masterpiece, and it's one of the rarest CDs that I would love to own. It came out on Hammerheart in 98. It's self-titled, but of course I've downloaded it, listened to it, love it to death. Would absolutely love to have it in the collection, and I'm lucky to have a copy of this. I ordered this, I think from the guy back when it was released in 2009. And like when I was gearing up to do this video, I thought, oh man, I hope somebody watches this video and maybe buys a copy of the album or something. And I went to looking today, and you can't get this fucking thing for like under $100 right now. So sorry, but it's not going to stop me from telling you how great of an album this is. Weird thing is, I was at work the other night, just doing some whatever. I was lifting a pallet and putting it on top of another pallet. I work in a warehouse. And this chorus just pops into my head. A chorus that has previously just been super infectious to in my head. And just one of those things that just like goes over and over and over in my head. And I was like, what the fuck is that? I kept on like singing the notes over and over and over in my head until finally I was able to figure out, that's Sad Legend. I haven't thought about Sad Legend in years, probably. It's sad how like forgotten this has been in the fucking catacombs of my stupid CD collection, because it's a brilliant album. So I went home, I picked up the album, put it on, totally just, I was just instantly remembered how great of an album it is, and I have not been able to put it down since. And this is probably, most certainly, the most I've ever listened to this album. I'm just like rolling around on the floor making love to this record left and right. Honestly, it's like, this is right down my alley, and I would be surprised if most of you are gonna like this. It's a very niche sort of thing. It's not a really popular sort of style, but hopefully you'll check it out and maybe give it a shot, because I think it's fucking great. Anyways, so I feel like a lot of modern bands are really shoving the aggressiveness and the brutality and the satanic atmosphere kind of stuff down our throats, and everybody's just gobbling it up. This is not that aggressive. This is definitely not very satanic, and I feel like it's more of a storytelling kind of album than one of those just super ultra blasphemous goat raping kind of nonsense kind of shit. That stuff's all fun and stuff, but this is not that kind of thing. It's symphonic, it's kind of technical, and at times it reminds me quite a bit of Balsagoth, which is a band I don't listen to very often. I had a period where I listened to Battle Magic, their best fucking album, for quite a while, and that album's great. So, kind of reminds me of Balsagoth. Sometimes it also kind of reminds me of like a power metal band, but without any of the clean vocals that you would find in a... this is the chorus that I was talking about. It's in Korean. The band is from South Korea, so I don't know the words. I just know the notes, and I just go, ah, along with it. It's so catchy and great. So the clean vocals on this album are fucking phenomenal, as with everything else, really. The only thing I guess I would say is a negative about the album is it's kind of vocal heavy. There's times where there's both black metal vocals and clean vocals sang at the same time. Vocally, it kind of oversaturates the music, which is brilliant all the time. I guess another little tick I would take off of it from being a 10 out of 10 album, I'm gonna say this is maybe like a 8 or so, which in my regard is still pretty fucking great. The quality of the songs kind of taper off toward the end of the album. There's 7 tracks on it, and I would say, I don't know, the last track or so isn't so hot, but the beginning of the album, really like the first 4 tracks of it are just fucking flawless, great, pretty technical, very melodic, really interesting. And like, I want to say, you know, usually you can like compare some sort of band to something out of Sweden or Norway or Finland or South America or America, but this is really unique. And I feel like, while I don't know if there's enough metal out of South Korea to say it sounds Korean, it just really sounds unique on its own footing. And I don't know, I want to say it sounds convincingly South Korean, but like there just aren't a lot of bands to compare them to from South Korea that I've heard of anyways. It seems like this guy has drummed in several other South Korean metal bands that I need to become familiar with. Othean is one of them that he's played drums for. And so that brings me to another topic. This is a solo project of a guy who normally plays drums. And so while the riffs are very heavy and very strong, memorable riffs, pretty melodic, nice layering and orchestration going on, you can kind of tell that these songs are written by a drummer from the framework and mind of someone who's more rhythmically adept at writing songs. So I think that's kind of interesting, and it's sort of a different approach to the black metal prototype that most of us are used to. Another thing that I want to point out before I scare you away with anything is that while I say it's symphonic, and it is quite symphonic, it isn't like there is a giant orchestra with lots of complex melodies and strings going on to kind of overcomplicate things. It's just kind of a cheesy, like Korg synthesizer type of sound that replicates like a 12-string ensemble or something. I don't really know how accurate that is, but it doesn't necessarily sound like real classical music. It's just symphonic in a way that there's a cheesy keyboard going over the top of it. And if that's your kind of thing, you're gonna love it. If you can tolerate it, I hope you can love it. But yeah, like I said, it's pretty complex, super memorable songwriting with lots of intricacies and interesting little kind of breaks and interludes going on. Tons of variety to it too. Like, I never get sick of listening to it. There's always a part that I'm looking forward to, or like, you know, you hear a riff and you like that riff, but you know what's going to come up next, and you're like, I can't wait for this fucking riff or this chorus to come up. So that's what I've been doing straight for 2 weeks, listening to this record. I need to put it down, and I feel like that's kind of what's been going on with me the last few months or so. I just get hooked on an album, and it's all I listen to until I do a review of it, and then I'm finally able to go, okay, let's put this behind us, put it down, stop listening to it. I think what I'm going to do is actually go back and listen to the first Sad Legend record constantly, and maybe hope I can come up with a copy of it, because, God, it's fucking great. I would say, comparing the first album to this one, it's a little bit more realistic sounding. That's one thing, the female vocals on this are kind of cheesy too. I wouldn't be surprised if the guy is doing the female vocals on here. If that's the case, they're pretty well done, but I think usually you can kind of tell when a band is doing their own female vocals and their males. Anyways, the first album is spectacular and phenomenal. I would say the songwriting is a little bit more watertight than this one. This is just kind of the one that stuck with me. And that chorus that's going on in track 2 called Maruta, the chorus in that song, it's so great. I'm definitely going to put a link below for you to check it out. So yeah, their first album, maybe even a little bit better than this one, but this is just the one I've been hooked on and I wanted to tell you about. So check it out, check it out, check it out, listen to it. It's great. Hopefully this is the last video that I have to do on my cell phone, because today I'm expecting a new camera to come in the mail, and things might look better, a little different. I don't know. I hope so. So we'll see you next time. Check out Sad Legend, Revenge of the Soul. It's great!